Okay, so hi everyone, and my name is Vladimir. I'm head of product at the Welkin suite, and I won't show you any slides. I won't do any general talks. I'll just almost immediately jump into the IDE, and I will show you the Welkin suite. So why it's cool, why it can help you, why it will help you, and yeah, this is how it works. So, but at the very beginning, the main idea of the Welkin suite IDE is to provide you everything or almost everything that you might need in your day-to-day development tasks in the same application. So you won't need to switch to any other application, to any browser, to the command line. Okay, SFDX CLI for now, for not a long time. And we are achieving this using different panels. So right now on my screen there is already a lot of information. There is Solution Explorer panel, static resources, local history, unit tests, orgs manager for SFDX, PMD report, debug logs, code coverage, and a lot of other information is also hidden. So this means that you can rearrange the IDE, the layout in the way you'd like to, and get everything that you need. So if you don't work with tests, hide them. If you don't work with debug logs, hide them. If you prefer to have command line at a full screen, enjoy it. And yeah, I'll get it back here, and I'll hide my face so it won't distract you from the IDE. And I will start from the very beginning here. So what do we support in terms of editing or developing? We have great support for Apex, for Visual Force, for Lightning, for JavaScript, CSS, regular HTML. We have support for some of the XML-based metadata types, as well as we have some pretty cool graphical UI editors and tools for the declarative development parts, like field value security, like subjects editing, like layouts. I won't show this today, but in general, we also cover declarative development and administering. And I will start from Apex, just because it's the base of everything. And let me find something. Oh, this one. Oh, even this one. So what do we have here for Apex? So we have our own code completion. It's absolutely local. It's built from scratch, and it doesn't require you to send requests to Salesforce. This means that with our code completion, as it knows everything about your organization, it knows everything about your standard, customers, objects, about all of their fields and methods. And this means that if you declare a new variable, immediately here on the next line, without any delays, without sending the changes to Salesforce, you get this variable in your code completion. Once you type in, it's my custom object, I have all the custom and standard object fields, as well as I have all the information from the standard, inherited from the object class. Also, as you can see in the code completion, we have documentation for some of the standard items from Salesforce. So I will use this add error. And the cool thing is that if there are any overloaded methods, you'll see all the overloaded variants here in the code completion. You also see the description for some of them. And in case if you have multiple parameters, like arguments, you see the arguments here. And for example, message should be. And if your parameters provide any documentation for them itself, you also show this documentation in the code completion. From another point of view, if you have your own code, for example, if you have, let me show this. For example, if you have your regular code, you have a method, and you'd like to get information about it in the code completion, just right-click inside the method body, generate Apex doc for current context. We are scanning all the parameters. We detect if there is any return. After that, we just need to fill in some details. And again, immediately, so what method with params. In the code completion, you see the description for the method itself, you see the description for parameter, and as you type into the second one, you see the description for it. It's like Apex doc, it's in general very cool thing that allows you to have proper documentation in the code without strange comment inside the methods, without anything weird. You just write small methods, document them properly with Apex doc, and all of the new team members or you after 5 months not working on the project, you'll get all the information about the code right here. Then I will switch to Lightning. And for Lightning, we have built our own editor as well as usual. I'll hide debug logs and code coverage. So as you open any Lightning application or component or anything else, you will see the editor split in two parts. On the upper side, there is a preview pane. On the lower part, there is a editor with subtabs for component controllers. So whatever components you have in your bundle, they'll be shown here. The cool thing is that I believe you know that you're not able to directly preview the components. You need to embed them somewhere, or into the application, or into the flex page, some as object, or somewhere else. So we allow you, if you're opening component, we allow you to select the preview applications that will be used. I have a special preview application, so I've selected it. But in case, for example, if I put this component as a part of my, let's say, account page, I can just enter a custom URL of some account object, which will be used for previewing my Lightning component. The cool thing here is that we remember what settings you've selected, and even after reloading the IDE, we won't ask you again to provide us application. We remember this data, and you just open the file and see the preview immediately. In terms of editing of your Lightning, we have, just like I believe a month ago, released a great update for the code completion for Lightning, for JavaScript, and for Visualforce. And in Lightning markup, in our markup, we know again everything about all of the standard tags. We provide documentation for some of them, not for everyone, unfortunately. We also know everything about the attributes for each text, so we provide you information what attributes you can use, what is the description, and all the details for them. If you go a bit deeper in terms of the like our markup, for example, if you have some references to component properties or to the page properties, for example here, if you're referencing V or C, we also detect all the information about this. So we show you all the attributes in the code completion. And if you're talking about C, where it is, yep, about the controller, we also know information about the methods which are provided by controller, so we don't need to remember them. We show you all the properties, all the parameters it receives, description. So all the code completion is working great in the Aura. At the same time, of course, we have completion for all the standard HTML tags and their attributes, so you don't need to remember this as well. In JavaScript part of the Lightning development, we also are aware about the Aura framework. We provide information about the Aura related methods, classes, all the stuff from Aura. And it's just like a regular code completion. JavaScript is not strongly typed, so we believe at some point later we might use our JavaScript doc, or maybe somehow implement TypeScript support if you'd like to get the strongly typed version of JavaScript for Lightning. But for now, like regular JavaScript completions that knows everything about Aura. For CSS part, we have absolutely great code completion. In general, it's the same as in Visual Studio for Windows, and provides pretty cool options. For example, here, if I have a style, and for this circle, it's pink now. If I want to change the color, I can even select it from the color picker to make it kind of yellow. I'll save my changes, and press F5 to save this file. Oh, okay. As you can see here, I have a bunch of errors, and errors are like avoid SQL queries inside loops. This is because I've just 10 hours ago showed another demo for guys from Akaya, and I showed them PMD. I don't know if you've used PMD or not, but it's a static analysis tool, and I've set it to execute before the build. So if in case I have some smelly code or violating best practices, it doesn't allow me to send the code to Salesforce. It's pretty cool. So let's try once more. I've disabled PMD. We are sending a bunch of files at the same time because I've done some changes. So this might take a bit more than usual. But the cool thing is that once the IDE successfully builds the changes for your Lightning application or component, it will immediately refresh the preview pane, so you don't need to go to browser or don't need to manually hit F5 or anything else. We have a whole bunch of files. And while it's building, yeah, the IDE doesn't send your changes to Salesforce immediately once you hit like Ctrl+S or save your files. We don't think that it's the best experience. We allow you to change as many files as you want, to do whatever you want, and then once you're ready, press F5 and all the changes will be sent to Salesforce at once. So as you can see, I've built my changes, and now the circle has another color. I'll change it once more to show you that it's pretty fast usually. Again, building, only one file was changed. That's it. Like 5 seconds and I have my changes in the preview pane. At the same time, yep, save. If I open the application, it will have the same preview pane, and in the markup completion for the application, for example, if I'd like to include another component, we also know about components that you have in your project. So you can, for example, circle a progress bar, and here we are, here is a list of attributes that are provided by this component. So it's pretty cool, it's pretty easy to develop for Lightning in this way. Before I proceed to Salesforce DX, because I really love it, I enjoy it, I believe that everyone will use SF DX at some point later. I hope this later will be almost tomorrow. So before I proceed to this, I want to show you some basic stuff, so it will be like a bit clearer and a bit more interesting for you. So as I said, we use the concept of different panels for different information. For example, in my case, we have test results. So I've executed a couple of test runs previously in this organization. I can see all of my test classes. I can see the test methods. I can see what issues I've had on each of the methods. In case, for example, if something has failed, I can see the details right here. I can even try to open a log file, and I will see our debug logs viewer with some highlighting for different types of events. I believe you guess that it's exception. So I can debug and troubleshoot unit tests in a very easy way. And the cool thing here is that the test results panel is kind of real time. So if I just right click on the previous test run and I want to rerun only failed test classes, I select rerun only failed and it will proceed. At the same time, I will show you the logs panel. And right now in the logs panel, you see that we are getting new log files from Salesforce. So this panel constantly polls your organization and looks for new log files. And once they appear, it shows them here. Double click and you can open any of them. And there is a code coverage panel which shows information about the code coverage for your classes and triggers in the organization. So you can double click on any class. Yeah, you see percentage, you see the number of covered and covered lines. You can open any class from the panel and you can show covering. And in this moment, you see the code coverage highlighting directly in the editor. You can see it by using for all tests, or you can check it one by one for each of the test methods. We have just recently released this a week ago. So we see that our test run have failed, one method succeeded, class succeeded, but 4 of them have failed. So this is some general stuff here for the your basic actions. We also do have a debugger, our own debugger. It's called Apex Retrospective Debugger. It allows you to just right click on test method. It allows you to click on, for example, on anonymous Apex, right click on it and debug it. Or you can debug from any log file. So it provides you regular debugging experience. Let me find something. So I can just find any failed unit test, open the log file. I'll go here. Right click on the unit test and debug unit test. The IDE will start the test run, will download log files, and will allow me to go step by step through the execution flow to see the local variables, to see the call stack, to see how governor limits are being changed step by step. So pretty cool stuff for troubleshooting issues and troubleshooting performance issues in Salesforce. Okay, Finish, and I'll switch back to Salesforce DX. So we're in the debug mode now, and as I go step by step through my execution flow, you see that we have locals panel, which shows you your local variables. We have the debug logs panel, which shows you log entries for the last steps. And we have governor limits panel, which shows you the governor limits and how they're being used. So for example, if you're experiencing issues with SOQL queries, with 101 SOQL query, or with DML statements, you can pretty easily analyze how they're being consumed across your execution flow. So you see that highlighted with red is the limits that were changed as a part of the last execution flow. And you see the different parameters. So a lot of information is available here, and reading the same stuff from the log files would make your eyes bleed. Like from my experience, when we were developing the debugger, my eyes were bleeding for the whole time because megabytes of log files, thousands of lines of code, of logs, just to get this information from locals panel. But okay. So what do we have for the Salesforce DX? We have our main idea for Salesforce DX is to provide you an easier way instead of doing everything from the command line, while you still can use command line. Our idea is to provide you very easy and quick options to make the same stuff from the IDE using the graphical UI. So we have built separate type of project for Salesforce DX. I'll switch to it. And the structure for this project is the same as in SFDX CLI, as in VS Code, because we're using the same SFDX CLI as a backend here for the project. The main thing for now is Organization Manager. Here you can see your dev hubs, here you can see your Scratch organizations. Instead of going to the command line and typing it SFDX, force, org, list, you just see them as Organizations Manager. If you want to get the details for your Scratch org, instead of typing force org display -u first Scratch, too much actions. You see the details right here in the orgs manager for each selected organization. We are doing this for you. In case, for example, if you need to generate password or do some basic actions for the organization, right-click on it, generate password, open in browser. Again, instead of force org open -u first Scratch, right-click, open in browser, and here you see the Scratch organization. If you need to create a new one, and I'll create a new one just to show you how it works, right-click on any development hub that you have, create Scratch org, name it somehow. I want to make it as a default. I can use the configuration from the project, from the current project. I can select a path to the configuration file. I can create a very basic one without any configurations, just like using the edition, or I can configure it manually. Once I select config manually, instead of working with JSON, with XML, I have a bunch of checkboxes. I just select needed ones. In case I want, I can save this as a JSON file for the future usage, but I'll press back, and I will use configuration from my project. After this, it will take about 30 to 40 seconds to create the Scratch org and to retrieve the data from the SFDX CLI. Here we don't have too much opportunities to speed up this process, but still. Yep, so org was created, now we're getting data for it. Yay. So now we have the second Scratch, as I have all the information about it, and it's now the default one. So I open it in browser as well. Okay, and now the cool thing. So what does the default organization means for the Welkin suite? This means that I have my sources. Once I press F5, all of them will be sent to the default organization by default. So you don't need to specify anything. You see that we are as well calling a SFDX CLI, and I guess in 20 seconds or 10 seconds, we are done. So all the changes are now on the Scratch org. If you remember panels which I've shown you like a couple of minutes ago, for each of the panels we are showing you details about your default Scratch org. So for now, if I, for example, press run tests on the Scratch organization, it's run now unit tests from my organization. If I want to do this, I can create a new class. Let it call, how I've called it, demo test class. I create a new class. Where is it? I open it, copy paste my dummy unit test, press F5, it's being sent to the organization. Done. Once it's done, I return back to the test results and I can execute the test class. In the same way as I'm doing this for the regular organization, you see the result immediately here. I can get back to the code coverage panel. I will see the code coverage details. I can go to the debug logs, enable download logs polling, rerun the test run, and in about 20 seconds I'll get my log file here because we have a configuration to poll for logs every 20 seconds. Couple more stuff for like to demonstrate with the IDE. If you remember, there is a bunch of like pretty complex commands, at least for me, in the Salesforce DX CLI to import or export data from or to organization. I don't remember them. I don't want to remember them, to be honest. This is why what we have here. If you have, I created data folder for myself, and I have here account JSON with some test data. Instead of typing in a long command in a DX CLI, right-click on the file, import. Waiting for 10 seconds, and that's done. Now I can get back to the organization, go to accounts, and I will see my sample data from that account JSON. Here it is. From another point of view, I will now delete this file. And if I want to export data from the organization, it's very easy. Instead of typing in a query in the command line, I create a SOQL file. I'll remove now it. And yeah, right now you can see our SOQL editor. Instead of typing in everything, instead of remembering all of the fields, you can just, in the right part of the screen, select needed fields that you'd like to select. For example, I want to select ID, name, and description for an account. I have my query. Now I want to be sure that it works. Okay, I have description, ID, name. So I save the query. Right-click on this SOQL file in the Solution Explorer, export data. Again, instead of one command, 2 clicks, and I'll get that account JSON file. Here it is. That's it. And if you're a fan of a command line, you have it here. So if something is not yet covered, and yes, there is a lot of stuff that is not yet covered by the IDE, by the graphical UI. So if there is something that you are missing, you can use command line. But our goal is to provide as much as we can different functions in the graphical UI. And like yes, the last part, if you want to pull changes from any organization, from any Scratch org, just right-click on it and pull sources, and we'll pull them from different organizations. Then once you're ready, you can delete it, commit, and push your changes to the Git or to any of your version control repositories that you'd like to. And yeah, as Boris asked a question before the webinar, like before this demo, we do have built-in support for Git. It's not ideal, but it allows you to make all the basic actions to like commit, see the log, create branches, merge branches, push, pull, so whatever you need for daily tasks, we support. And the last part, yeah, we have version for Windows, so I'm showing you the Windows one because I'm a general Windows user. We also have the Mac version. Sometimes it's a bit behind the Windows version. For example, SFDX is not yet there, but it will be there next Friday, or maybe in 2 weeks. But before the enforce, it will be there for sure. And in general, the functionality of Mac and Windows version is the same, maybe with some delay of a couple of weeks usually. And yeah, this was very quick, very high level. There is a whole bunch of other features that I'd like to show, but it's impossible, even in 1.5 hours. So I will be happy to answer any of your questions, guys, and if you still have some time.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Vladimir. I really appreciate it. That was very informative. I will just ask the crowd now if there's any specific questions anyone wants to ask. Yep. Yeah. I'll pass the question on. Or do you want to come in here and ask him? Yep.
are on the team and how long have they been?
So the question, Vladimir, is that so Jeremy loves the product and what you guys are trying to do. He's asking how many people are on the team and for how long have you been working on this?
Cool question, thank you. I'm usually starting with this, but like we have started working on the Welkin suite almost 4 years ago. We started for ourselves. When we have started to develop for Salesforce, we were struggling with existing tools and it was pain for us. So we have started to work on it 4 years ago. Now our team is about 15 people and we are releasing new releases every 2 or 3 weeks. So you might imagine then, like since we went public beta, we had already about 76 or something like that releases. It's huge pain for us because like it's too often. From another point of view, we provide very rapid changes and we are very open for any kind of feedback. And at the same time, in our company, we have about 35 Salesforce developers. So we have, again, a bunch of beta testers and the source for feedback, for ideas, for pain. And like we know what we are doing because we are also Salesforce devs.
Awesome, thanks. Yep.
Is there any consideration of one of its license costs, or is it always license?
What's your license cost and subscription model? Is it monthly or is it one-off license?
Yearly, I think,
Or yearly?
It's not a one-off. Like why? It's because like yeah, we're releasing new versions every 2 weeks. Salesforce is releasing new stuff every 4 months or even more often. So we want you to get the latest support for everything, and this requires like development efforts. So we have subscription-based model. Our pricing for like regular usage is $15 per month per developer, or $150 per year.
Cool. Yep. So what's a question? What's on the roadmap for the next 3 to 6 months?
Cool question. So for now, we're just like finishing our small sprint of like kind of a sprint roadmap of 3 months before the Dreamforce. So right now we are finishing with SFDX. Goals for us for the next 3 months, in general, I'd say would be SFDX. First of all, to bring more and more features of SFDX. Second goal is to bring more declarative development features. I haven't shown them to you, but I'll just, while I'm talking, we'll try to show something. So our goal is to make the tool usable for both developers and admins working on the same team. Like we have recently provided code completion for validation rules for workflows, and we will work in that direction as well. Also, we would like to work, like we are working on improving our Apex code completion. So we have refactoring options and plans. We have some more intelligent code completions ideas. And for now, like high level, that's it. SFDX, declarative development stuff, better code completion. Plus lots of other smaller features like suggested by users as well.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Sorry, Ben, you had a question before? No? All good. Cool. Yep. So yeah, what's the current support with like Git and other source version control, Bitbucket and anything else basically?
So like as I said, it's not ideal. Like being honest as well. Again, like my personal opinion, not related with the Welkin suite, but like I personally never use the built-in tools for version control in the IDEs. I prefer to have my like standalone application to do this. But yeah. Anyway, we have built-in version control in Windows version. It's not yet, yeah, I know it's sad, but it's not yet working for SFDX projects, and it's not enabled for this project. I will try to show it to you. Where is it? For Mac version, we have a bit better version control. Again, it works only with Git, but in general, it doesn't matter for us what hosting you're using. So if it's Bitbucket, if you're GitLab, GitHub, we don't care. Yeah, where is my project with? Looks like I don't have a project with Git. I believe this one.
It's quite a few projects there.
So here's version control panel. It shows you all of the branches. You can see the Git log with all of the commits, details of each commit, author date. You can see what changes were done. You can see the built-in diff view here. You can see what was changed. You can return back to the branches, create a new one. You see the outstanding changes which were not yet committed. You can select whatever you'd like to commit, then go to sync. You see the outgoing commits which are local, not on the remote side. Pull, push, regular stuff, no magic, no rocket science, just basic actions.
Awesome, thanks.
With Eclipse, it's hard to say what Eclipse does good. Like, really, like it's...
I threw it in there. Nice one. I threw it in there just because someone mentioned it here. I agree with you. Yeah, most of the people are tossing and turning between Welkin Suite and limited cloud nowadays. I would say. So maybe just do a comparison with.
Yeah, because like Visual Code is also like VS Code is great, but it's like an editor like Maven's made, so it's cool, but a bit another part. Comparing to Illuminated Cloud, at some point, like before, we were a bit behind Scott with his code completion for Apex and all the stuff. For now, I can say that our code completion is better than his one, at least for the first versions. So we are waiting for his second version, but our code completion won't, for example, provide you completions that won't compile. So they are like context sensitive. They won't show you private matters of another class. They won't show you such kind of stuff. From another point of view, like, I don't know, it's the main difference, like, you know, it's, for me, it's very similar to .NET and Java world. In .NET, you have Visual Studio, where everything you can do from the graphical UI, when it's things instead of you sometimes, when you don't need to go to config files, or you don't need to go anywhere. In Java world, you need to do much more stuff manually. For example, just like simple demonstration, PMD rule sets. I don't know if you guys use them or no. Like in Java world, like from where PMD have came, you have an XML file, you need to configure it manually. I spent 2 days trying to figure out how I can configure the PMD rule set. Instead of this, our team spent a week to build this PMD rule set configurator. And now instead of like doing this in XML file and trying to find information, you have all the parameters here. I have checkboxes. I have documentation. Save it as XML file and then do whatever you want. But instead of like doing this beforehand manually, I have this in graphical UI. Another difference, pretty big one, it's the support for declarative development part. So I've tried it, and it was in the background, the account, where is it? Account object with field level security. So the idea is to make the tool for everyone, for declarative developers, for admins, for those who write Apex, or yay.
That's a typical, blame it on Windows. It's all good.
Like, yeah, we are based on the Visual Studio shell. It's Microsoft product, so like it's not strange. Yeah, of course, of course. And like, yeah, another maybe change that we are like difference that we are very kind of friendly and open. So if you look at our forum or you see how we are talking with our users, so we can sometimes even drop in something into the sprint at the last day of the sprint, just because someone asked this, and we can do this. Why not? So we are doing a lot of small and handy features. We're providing lots of different ways to do the same stuff for you.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it comes to, you know, to your background. It's either Java or .NET, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But yeah, the other thing is, I guess it's that many people versus one person. People are in love with that already here.
Is there an IDE, is there a UI for creating the package XML, like Maven's made of it?
To generate the package XML.
To generate the package XML.
Is there any UI or any support for generating the package XML for the metadata in the org? Yeah.
Interesting question. Not sure how exactly to answer it. So from one point of view, no, we don't have anything just to generate package XML. From another point of view, if you need to deploy something, deploy it from the IDE.
Yeah, it's mainly around retrieving and deploying stuff, but yeah. Yeah, so it's a brand new org and you want to retrieve all the metadata. How would that sort of fit in within Welkin Suite?
Not sure if I understand correctly, but like, okay, just like when you create a project, when you enter credentials, let me show you it in just a second. File, new project, regular one. So you select them like in Eclipse, yeah. You select the material types that you'd like to include, subscribe, select certain ones. Once you select, like here we have admin preset as well. We have developer one admins. So if admins are working, they don't need classes, pages, lightning.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I see. Oh.
And like after that, like yeah, we have the regular project structure. It's the same as for any other tool or IDE. We have unified this like with everyone else. And in the project, in the file system, you have the, where is it? You have the package XML file with all of the stuff that you have included into your project. So for example, if you put it into the Git, it will be the same as any other projects, and you'll be able to use it on the CI.
Yep, perfect. Awesome, thank you. Yep. Yeah. So another question popped up. For non-developers or citizen developers, what sort of which areas do you cover for admins, for example? What are the things that they can do with the IDE without going into code?
Oh, cool question. Thanks. So for now, it's editing like I'm now showing permission sets assignments with the same logic as for field level security. Lots of stuff here. For S objects, you can work with XML. I hate it, so I prefer to have graphical UI. I can modify fields. I can create new fields. I can add the new pick list value. It would be maybe. Save. Press save and deploy, it gets to Salesforce. At the same time, if you're a fan of XML, why not? The changes that I've done, it's already in the XML file, so it's up to you whatever to use. We have field level security. I always hated to work with FLS, even like when I was writing the code, I still need to deal with FLS. So here on the left side you see all the fields, on top you see all the profiles, change with clicks. Quick actions for fields, quick actions for profiles. If you've done something crazy for a field or a profile, right-click on it, bulk apply, and clone the settings to others. The same for profiles.
Awesome. Good job.
And the pain for our team, pain for myself was deploying change like field level security settings from sandbox to production. Even like with change sets, with undeployment tool, it was always a pain. We've done like dirty workaround, it's dirty hack, but it works, like who cares? I can export my settings to a JSON file, then I open my production project in the Welkin suite, import that JSON file, and press apply. Dirty, but works and saves time. Layouts, the same approach, fields, layouts, there is no drag and drop, but for bulk changes, it's much easier to work in this way. And we also have, we have IDE layout, especially for declarative development and administering, with only needed panels shown by default. Not this one. And here is admin panel, where you can see all of your objects on the organization. Let me make it bigger. For each of these objects, you see your fields, parameters for all of them. You see layouts, what fields are shown, what fields are hidden. You see workflow rules. You see validation rules. If you want to change them, I personally don't like the point-and-click way of changing validation rules on the organization. In the setup UI, I prefer to type this in. So we had code completion for validation rules. We grab the information from organization-wide properties. We get details from the custom settings. We show you all the standard and custom fields and functions for the validation rules which you can use. So it's not yet first iteration will make it better, but again it saves time. And right here from the admin panel, you can also like do some basic stuff like generate a SQL query, open FLS, open layouts, open in browser. It's not yet finished. We have lots of plans to work here on the admin panel. It's like, as I said, one of our main priorities for the next like 3-4 months. But for now, it's already a pretty good time-saving feature.
Awesome.
And yeah, like we have data loader. I never use this. I hate loading data. I don't do this, thank God. But we have it.
Yeah, perfect. I think we've got one more question. Sorry. Also, I know that you recently guys started supporting Mac officially, the OS X version. What are the differences between the Windows and the OS X version?
It's hard to say. So in general, we have the same team working on both versions. For Windows, we are using Visual Studio shell. For Mac, we are using mono-develop shell. So it's pretty like the same idea. In terms of functionality, it depends. Sometimes we are releasing new features on Mac first. Sometimes, like most time, we are doing this first on Windows. For example, for now, there is no Salesforce DX support there. Like as I said, it should be live next Friday. Hope so. We might be missing some of the smaller features. For example, like if I open any unit test class, you can see that for test methods, we are showing you small marks on margin with the results of the last test run. You can execute test class method here. We don't have this feature for Mac yet. We don't have this code map for Mac yet. And like, this is always changing. Like the regular like delay is usually like less than a week. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And for some of the features, we are trying to analyze the usage rate, how people are using this, if these features are needed. And if we don't see like a very urgent or like high requirements in these features, we might delay their implementation for Mac version. However, in case if you're our user, if you're a trial user or like professional user, we don't care about this. If you let us know that you're missing such particular feature from the Windows version and Mac version, we will do our best to make its path to Mac much shorter.
Makes sense. Cool. All right. I guess that's it. On behalf of the whole user group here, about 25-ish people, I would like to thank you very much for your time and for the presentation. We found it very informative, and I'm sure we'll be in touch very soon.
Thank you very much, guys, as well for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your meetup and the rest of your evening. And in case if you like any one of you have any questions, just like feel free to ping us in any social media, in email, forum. I'm always happy to answer.
Perfect. Sounds good. Sorry. Yeah, I'm gone. Yeah. We'll ping you on social media for sure. Thanks again, Vladimir.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good evening.
Take care.
See you.
Bye-bye.